A chilling wind sweeps across the desolate plains of Kursk, carrying with it the unsettling whispers of a brewing storm. This isn't just another border skirmish, it's a convergence of desperate ambitions and raw military power, a deadly dance unfolding under the watchful eyes of a world on edge. Today, we delve into the heart of this conflict, where a combined force of 50,000 North Korean and Russian troops have plunged headfirst into a maelstrom of Ukrainian resistance. Will this unprecedented alliance become a force to be reckoned with, or will it crumble under the relentless pressure of a battle-hardened foe? Prepare yourselves, because what's happening in the Kursk region is unlike anything we've witnessed before. In this video, we will explore this unfolding drama step by step in 7 critical chapters. But before we proceed, I urge you to watch until the end, where we will dissect the profound implications of these events. The conclusion will shock you, and it might make you question everything you thought you knew. Chapter 1. The Gathering Storm. The news emanating from Kursk continues to send tremors across the globe. The formation of a joint force of 50,000 North Korean and Russian soldiers, initially presented as a counter-offensive initiative, has rapidly escalated into a full-blown clash. The mobilization of troops and the initial engagements mark the commencement of a fierce struggle, the outcome of which is far from certain. Kim Jong-un's deployment of 10,000 North Korean military personnel to bolster Russia's efforts has introduced a new dynamic to this already volatile conflict. Reports confirm that these troops are actively engaged in combat, marking a significant shift in the regional balance of power. Vedant Patel, the deputy spokesperson for the U.S. State Department, has acknowledged the presence of these troops, emphasizing that the effectiveness of the integrated force will largely depend on how well the Russian military can assimilate them. Challenges loom large, including overcoming language barriers, ensuring interoperability between the forces, establishing clear command and control structures, and maintaining effective communication channels. The integration is no simple feat, but it's a crucial part of Russia's plan, though its efficiency is heavily questioned by military experts worldwide. The deployment is a high-stakes gamble for both North Korea and Russia, and only time will tell if they can navigate these intricate challenges. Chapter 2. Frontline Flashpoints. Adding to the complexity of the situation are statements coming from Ukrainian and South Korean sources. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has confirmed that some of the 11,000 North Korean troops stationed near the Russian border in the Kursk region have already engaged in direct conflict with the Ukrainian military. Zelensky also stated that Ukraine's advance in the area has effectively tied down approximately 50,000 Russian troops, preventing their deployment to other crucial fronts within Ukraine. This effectively throws the Russian war strategy in disarray, forcing them to redirect precious resources to this area to prevent the complete collapse of their lines. The South Korean intelligence agency has further corroborated these reports, verifying that North Korean forces are actively participating in the fighting in the Kursk area of Russia. These corroborating statements, alongside observed on-the-ground operations, confirm that Russian and North Korean forces are operating in unison against the Ukrainian military, which is something never seen before. The first coordinated offensive launched by the Russian and North Korean troops, aimed at capturing the Russian town of Malaya Loa, ended in a devastating rout. Ukrainian forces inflicted heavy losses on the armored units that were forced to traverse paved roads, which made them vulnerable to the Ukrainian military and the drones that were deployed to observe and destroy their column. Chapter 3. The Ukrainian Trap. The Ukrainian response has been swift and decisive. Some of Ukraine's most elite and experienced units, including the 47th Mechanized Brigade, the 82nd Air Mobile Brigade, the 17th Mechanized Brigade, and the 80th Air Mobile Brigade, have been assigned to defend the Kursk region. These brigades boast a wealth of combat experience and are known for their strong leadership. Anticipating repeated large-scale Russian mechanized attacks via the limited number of paved roads leading to Malaya Lua, Ukrainian commanders meticulously prepared a counter-offensive. Ukrainian forces understand the limits of the landscape, and they've used this to their advantage by anticipating the enemy's movements. Knowing the Russians could only advance from 2 directions due to limited road access, they deployed numerous drones along these routes and implemented remote mines. This strategic deployment created a lethal gauntlet for any advancing force, turning what was supposed to be an advantage into a brutal and deadly trap. Both sides have deployed some of their most heavily equipped units to the Kursk front line, resulting in some of the most intense fighting seen since the war began. Chapter 4, a war unlike any other. The current fighting is unprecedented and cannot be compared to prior conflicts, such as the defense of Avdiivka in February of this year. While the Battle of Avdiivka was a purely defensive effort that saw the Ukrainian forces run out of ammunition, causing the city to fall to the Russian military, the current engagement in Kursk is markedly different. In this region, Ukraine does not shy away from deploying its elite brigades to defend the Russian territory that it currently occupies in Kursk. Even though the amount of territory under Ukrainian control in Kursk has decreased slightly over the past 2 months, they still maintain control over approximately 700 square kilometers of Russian land, creating a huge humiliation for the Russian military. This is a bold and aggressive strategy that defies the norm of a defensive war. On the ground, soldiers of the 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade, along with other units, have effectively halted the intensive Russian offensive operations in the Kursk region. According to reports from the brigade's press service, the Russian military deployed over 30 pieces of equipment and a battalion-sized group of personnel in an offensive operation that was quickly crushed by Ukrainian forces. The Kremlin has reinforced the 51st Airborne Regiment and the 810th Marine Brigade, throwing these troops into Ukrainian positions. But this is not enough to break the tenacious defense of Ukraine. It has been reported that the 810th Marine Brigade also includes a significant number of North Korean troops, marking a first-ever integration of foreign troops in the Russian Marine Corps. Chapter 5, Devastating Setbacks. On Tuesday, the 30th of the past month, 30 Russian vehicles advanced in 5 waves toward the 47th Mechanized Brigade's position. However, this advancement was quickly turned into a complete disaster. Ukrainian forces responded with mines, drones, and Stugna P anti-tank missiles, destroying 10 of the Russian vehicles, turning them into burned-out husks of twisted metal. The first 3 vehicles were detonated by mines, their crews instantly killed, and the vehicles rendered useless. The remaining survivors scattered, running into sectors held by other Ukrainian troops, which may have included the recently reorganized 17th Heavy Mechanized Brigade, who quickly finished them off with precision fire. The 47th Mechanized Brigade reported that adjacent brigades engaged and destroyed the remaining 20 armored vehicles with Stugna ATGMs and FPV drones, leaving no vehicle undamaged. In another operation, Ukrainian territorial defense fighters completely eliminated a Russian assault group that was attempting to cross the Sime River in the Kursk region. The 129th Separate Territorial Defense Brigade's Rugby Team Assault Company reported that the troops were eliminated after crossing the river in a brazen and foolish move. The Russian command had ordered the fighters to attack by boats, without the support of armored vehicles, which allowed them to be targeted by drones, artillery, and small arms. At least 7 Russian soldiers landed on the opposite bank of the river, only to be immediately targeted by Ukrainian forces who had full advantage of the landscape. According to Ukrainian military sources, the Russian assault group was completely destroyed while crossing the Sime River, leaving no survivors. It has been noted that the Russian strike group also included North Korean soldiers, although there is no confirmed information on their liquidation. Chapter 6, Desperate Deadlines and Shaky Alliances. Despite the tremendous and devastating losses, the Russians are showing no signs of surrender or even slowing down. Russian President Vladimir Putin had initially set a deadline of October 1st for his forces to retake Kursk, which they have failed to accomplish, and has now pushed it back. The new deadline is reportedly tied to the inauguration of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump in January. Trump promised to end the war in Ukraine within 24 hours of his election, but this promise remains unfulfilled. It is unclear what his plans are regarding Ukraine once he officially takes control of U.S. foreign policy, though it will undoubtedly have an impact on the outcome of this conflict. In a post-election phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, Trump allegedly proposed a ceasefire that would freeze the front lines, a proposition that could potentially legitimize Russia's territorial gains. This proposal, lacking any concrete enforcement mechanism, would allow Russia to retain 25,000 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory, while Ukraine would control 250 square miles of the Russian region of Kursk, but only if their troops are able to maintain their hold on the territory until the ceasefire takes effect. Putin is prepared to sacrifice countless lives to secure this outcome. But the question is, if the combined forces of Russia and North Korea are up to the challenge. Commanders of the 47th Mechanized Brigade understand that there is no time for border raids or other distractions. The Russians had committed themselves fully in Kursk a week ago, and now the Ukrainians are doing the same, creating an atmosphere of all-out war. Bringing North Korean soldiers to fight alongside the Russian troops in a country where they don't want to be has not been the grand coup Putin had hoped for. Instead, this alliance has been plagued by language barriers, culture clashes, and a lack of coordination. If your definition of comedy involves serious casualties and diplomatic nightmares, then this alliance is a farcical show. From day one, this alliance is a disaster. Imagine two armies trying to fight side by side, but speaking completely different languages, relying on hand signals and gestures to coordinate their movements. The Russian soldiers say, "Take that hill," and the North Koreans say, "Go left," and before you know it, they are both easy targets for the Ukrainians, who watch this entire mess as if it were a bad reality TV show. Chapter 7, The Unraveling and the Unexpected. It's virtually impossible to implement sophisticated military tactics in such an environment. North Korean troops are accustomed to guerrilla warfare, utilizing sneaky ambushes and hiding in the woods. The Russian army, on the other hand, employs tanks, heavy artillery, and all the big guns of a modern army. It's like trying to run a three-legged race with one person sprinting and the other one crawling. The result is a big exposed flank and a big exposed plan. The Ukrainian forces are not going to waste this opportunity to exploit the weaknesses of this strange alliance. A few days after arriving at the front, North Korean troops were decimated in several minor skirmishes. About 40 North Korean soldiers were killed, and 18 North Korean soldiers abruptly left the front, declaring their unwillingness to participate in this conflict, and disappeared into the night. Russian forces are now wasting precious time and resources trying to hunt down these deserters instead of focusing on the battle. Russia's attempt to retake Kursk is not progressing as they had planned. November 11th, 2024, should be marked on the calendar as the worst day in this campaign for Russian forces. Nearly 2,000 Russian soldiers were killed while trying to retake lost positions from the Ukrainian defenders. This is a disaster of epic proportions. It's a massive tactical failure, but also a political disaster. The alliance with North Korea is proving to be a complete failure, and instead of a regrouping, Russia is now fighting a losing battle on multiple fronts. Let's also address the absurdity of the Putin and Kim drinking champagne together routine. They smile for the cameras, and they try to convince the world that this is some kind of historic alliance. But what about those champagne glasses? They are sparkling, but also full of despair for Putin. These staged photos are meant to be a distraction from the fact that things are not going well for the Russian people. For Kim Jong-un, this is a rare moment in the spotlight, showcasing North Korea's importance on the global stage. However, all the toasts in the world will not be able to fix a failed military alliance, which is currently unraveling. The Russian and North Korean media are doing their best to keep the narrative of unity alive. There is even a doctored video circulating, showing Putin and Kim toasting and drinking from their glasses, to project an image of mutual trust. But fact-checkers quickly found it to be a poorly made forgery. The video was reversed, edited, and re-edited to show a level of trust that simply does not exist between these two leaders. These two countries are not strategic partners, but rather, they are trying to hold this shaky alliance long enough for their own people to believe it. The reality is a mess of mistrust, logistical nightmares, and nothing even remotely close to cooperation. This entire Kursk fiasco is not just a tactical loss, it's a long-term liability. Russia's inability to effectively use the North Korean forces is making them appear weaker than ever before, and it makes other countries question if they should cooperate with a country that cannot even manage its own backyard. For North Korea, the situation is equally dangerous. Kim Jong-un may be enjoying his moment in the sun, but if the news of how bad things are going reaches his country, it could weaken his grip on the military and his dictatorial position. Desertions and casualties among North Korean soldiers are on the rise, and this is very bad news for Kim. Despite the rise in casualties in the arena of war, Ukrainians are worried, and here is why. Ukraine and NATO are worried that the first few thousand North Korean troops sent to Kursk will be the first of many to follow, and it could be a dangerous escalation of this conflict. If Russia escalates the conflict by allowing large numbers of foreign troops to join the fight, what would stop NATO countries from sending their own troops to fight on behalf of Ukraine? With small numbers of foreign volunteers already fighting on both sides, the involvement of NATO-approved troops would be a very different matter and would bring NATO and Russian forces into direct contact with each other. This would significantly expand the conflict and risk the formal involvement of NATO and the Collective Security Treaty Organization, a Russian-led alliance of post-Soviet states. Russia has chosen to bring North Korean troops into this conflict. For now, it is just a few thousand, but the possibility of a large number of foreign troops joining the Russian forces is only one step away, making the prospect of a catastrophic global war a very real and frightening one. Unexpected ending. And here's the unexpected turn. As the world holds its breath, a clandestine operation, unknown to both the Ukrainian and Russian forces, is about to unfold. A small, but highly trained unit of South Korean special forces is secretly being deployed in the area, tasked not with engaging either side, but with securing a critical objective. Their mission is to retrieve a highly sensitive piece of technology, one that was rumored to be in the hands of the North Korean contingent. This technology is rumored to be the key to a new type of hypersonic weapon, one that neither Russia or North Korea can currently control, and both are desperate to have in their possession. Their presence is not for the purposes of military engagement, but rather the retrieval of this dangerous piece of tech, one that could change the outcome of not just this war, but of all future conflicts. As the guns rage and the alliance falls apart, the true war is fought in the shadows, one where the fate of the world hangs in a delicate and fragile balance. But that is the story for another video. We have only scratched the surface of this intricate conflict, so make sure to stay tuned for all future updates. Conclusion. As you can see, the situation in Kursk is incredibly volatile, with far-reaching global implications. The alliance between Russia and North Korea, once seen as a potential power shift, is proving to be more of a liability, plagued by internal contradictions and logistical nightmares. As promised, in the end, we have presented our conclusion. The conclusion is that this entire conflict is a ticking time bomb that has the potential to escalate into something much worse, which will have repercussions all over the globe. But for now, it is all we know about this conflict. Do you think that the South Korean intervention will impact the course of this conflict? Please let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth analysis and future updates on this rapidly evolving situation. Thank you for watching.